Turin, 1849. A 15-year-old boy named Charles lies dying in a cramped apartment. His mother paces. His aunt weeps. The priest has already come and gone. Confession heard. Last rites given. And now Charles is cold, dead cold. His chest does not rise, but there is something his mother does not know. 2 weeks ago, Charles went with a friend, a bad companion, and they sinned. When Charles went to confession, he held back. Fear gripped his throat. Shame burned his face. He could not say it, could not admit it to the priest. So he lied by silence. He took the host with death in his soul, and now he is dead. When John Bosco returns to Turin and hears the news, he rushes to the house. The mourners tell him he is too late. Bosco says it is just a misunderstanding. He enters the room, kneels, prays. Then he stands, and his voice cuts the silence like iron. Charles, rise. The boy's eyes open. His chest heaves with breath. Every witness freezes. Charles sees Bosco, and tears flood his face. Father, I should be in hell right now. The words come fast. 2 weeks ago, bad companion. The sin, the confession where I could not speak. Then he describes what he saw. He was standing at the edge of a massive furnace. Demons surrounded him, hundreds of them. They were dragging him toward the flames. Their hands were cold, and their laughter was worse than the heat. Then a woman appeared, beautiful beyond measure. She held up her hand, and the demons stopped. There is still hope for you, Charles. You have not yet been judged. At that moment he heard Bosco calling his name, calling him back from the mouth of hell. When it is finished, Charles weeps again, but these are different tears. Clean tears. Bosco asks him a question. Now that heaven is open for you, would you rather go there or stay here with us? Charles looks at his mother, at his aunt. He sees their faces wet with hope, but he also sees what lies beyond, and he says the words, Don Bosco, I would rather go to heaven. He leans back against the pillow, closes his eyes, and dies. This is documented in the biographical memoirs of John Bosco. Witnesses signed statements, the family recorded it, the Salesian order investigated it, and Charles was only one. Bosco saw more, much more. 19 years later, on the night of Friday, April 10th, 1868, Bosco had another vision. He did not want to sleep. For days, nightmares had been exhausting him. He sat at his desk until midnight browsing books, trying to stay awake. But sleep took him. And when it did, a figure appeared at his bedside, the same distinguished person from nights before. Get up. You have no time to lose, Bosco protested. I'm exhausted. Toothache for days. I need rest. The figure ignored him. Never mind. You will see. For a moment, Bosco lost sight of his guide and panic hit. Then the man reappeared and led him forward. They came to a beautiful road, broad, well paved, lined with magnificent fences covered in flowers, roses everywhere. The road seemed flat, but Bosco noticed it sloped downward, imperceptibly at first. But the descent was there, and he moved with strange ease as if wind carried him. Then he saw them. Boys from his oratory, boys he knew by name. They were rushing down the slope. Some stumbled, some fell. All of them tumbled with incredible speed, howling in fear. On their foreheads, Bosco saw words written, their sins, written in letters of fire. He called out to them, shouted their names, but they did not hear, could not hear. They kept falling. Is there no way to prevent the loss of so many souls? The guide replied, they have not died yet, but they are in a state of mortal sin. And if they die in this state, they will end up in hell. While they spoke, another group of boys cast themselves down the slope. At the bottom, Bosco saw gates, massive gates, black iron. And when the boys reached them, the gates opened for just a few moments, long enough to swallow them. Then they clanged shut. The sound was final, like the closing of a tomb. Large veils hung at regular distances, covering rooms that accessed deeper caverns. The guide pointed to one veil. Above it was written, the sixth commandment. He said transgressions against this commandment caused the eternal ruin of many boys. Bosco asked, did they not go to confession? The guide said they did, but they made bad confessions. They omitted sins. One said he committed such sins 2 or 3 times when it was 4 or 5. Others fell into that sin in childhood and were too ashamed to confess it. Others had no sorrow, no purpose of amendment. They went through the motions, but their hearts were closed. Above this one was written, those who desire to become rich fall into temptation and into the snare of the devil, Bosco protested. This does not apply to my boys. They are as poor as I am. We are not rich, we do not want to be. But the guide lifted the veil anyway, and there Bosco saw more boys in torment. The guide explained. For example, the hearts of some boys are attached to material objects, a coin, a trinket, a piece of clothing. This disordered affection distances them from God. They worship the object instead of the giver, and so they fall. In 1898, and from the critical edition of 40 Dreams of Saint John Bosco, published in 1977, which compiled his dream journals, originally kept from 1855 onward, These are not popular retellings. These are archival documents from the Salesian Order, with witness testimony and dates cross-checked against Turin parish records, and the saint's personal correspondence held in the Salesian archives in Rome. Now back to the information. The graces given by the Virgin Mary that were ignored, the promises made to her that were not kept. He saw that they could have been saved by a small effort, and instead now they were condemned forever. One boy turned to him. His face was familiar. A good student, respectful, from a decent family. Bosco asked, "Why are you here?" The boy said, "I had everything. My parents loved me. I had food, I had education, I had sacraments available. But I refused them. I thought I did not need them. I thought I was fine. I had no vice, no great sin, but I had no faith. I went through the motions, I said the words, but my heart was stone. I believed in nothing, and when I died I had nothing to stand on. No foundation, no reason to be saved, just emptiness. And hell is where emptiness goes. But you can help those still alive. Tell them. The boy who has everything but believes nothing is already dead. Faith is not decoration. It is not a cultural habit. It is the root. Without it, every good work is sand. Every prayer is noise. Every confession is theater. The guide led Bosco to another corridor. This one went deeper than the others. The heat grew. The air became thick. Bosco could barely breathe. They reached a wall, or what seemed like a wall. It was made of iron, glowing red. The guide said, "Touch it." Bosco refused. The guide seized his hand and pressed it against the metal. The pain was instant, unimaginable. Bosco screamed and jerked back. He woke in his bed, sitting up, soaked in sweat. His hand was stinging. He rubbed it, trying to ease the pain. When morning came, he looked at his palm. It was swollen, red. Later, the skin peeled off. The dream had burned him, changed him forever. It made him understand that hell is real, that mortal sin kills, that shame and confession costs souls, and that faith is not optional. It is oxygen. An angel stood before the altar receiving the gifts, but some boys brought strange offerings. One boy brought a pig's head, another brought a cat, another a plate of toads. The angel looked at them with disdain. Toads symbolize sins of scandal, and you offer them to the Virgin. Go with the other unworthy ones. They retreated in confusion. Other boys came with a knife plunged into their hearts, a symbol of sacrilege. The angel asked, "Do you not see that you have death in your soul? You are alive only by the mercy of God. Otherwise, you would be in hell. For pity's sake, have that knife removed." They too were rejected. But to Bosco's sorrow, those who had been set aside were far more numerous than he imagined. Then Bosco noticed something. Many boys had rotten flowers among the fresh ones. The angel explained, "These rotten flowers signify good works done in mortal sin and thus without merit. The scentless flowers are good works done for human ends, ambition, pleasing masters." The angel rebuked them for daring to bring such offerings. He sent them back to rearrange their bouquets. These boys withdrew, undid the bouquets, removed the spoiled flowers. Having rearranged the flowers, they tied them up again and brought them back. This time, the angel accepted them and placed them on the table. If you have no faith, it is just performance. Empty ritual. God wants the heart, not the theater. And the heart is proven by confession, by communion, by devotion that is real, not pretend. In another dream, Bosco saw a large serpent, enormous. Its body was covered in scales that glittered like jewels, beautiful and hypnotic. Boys gathered around it, fascinated. The serpent was dead, killed, but its flesh remained. And against Bosco's protests, some boys began to pick up pieces of the serpent and eat them. They said it is delicious. They ate more. Then they crumpled to the ground. Their bodies swelled, hardened like stone. They died. The stranger replied, "Because the sensual man does not perceive the things that are of God." Bosco pleaded, "There must be some way to save them." The stranger said, "There is. Anvil and hammer." Bosco placed the boys on an anvil and hit them with a hammer. With each strike, most of the boys were restored to life and recovered. The stranger explained, "The anvil and hammer are symbols. The anvil is Holy Communion. The hammer is confession. These are the only remedies for sin. Without them, the poison stays. Without them, the soul dies." As they tried to close in, they rammed it, set it afire, crippled it as much as they could. This stately vessel was shielded by a flotilla escort, but the winds and waves were with the enemy. In the midst of this endless sea, 2 solid columns soared high into the sky. One was surmounted by a statue of the Immaculate Virgin. At her feet, a large inscription read, "Help of Christians." The other column was taller. At its summit was a Eucharist host. The inscription read, "Salvation of the Faithful." He moored the ship to both columns. At that moment, the battle ceased. The enemy ships retreated. The sea calmed. Bosco explained to his boys, "Only 2 means are left to save the church amidst the confusion. Devotion to Mary, most holy and frequent communion. Everything else is secondary. These 2, nothing else. It is not a safety net you activate when you are desperate. Faith is the ground beneath your feet. And when the ground is not there, you fall, no matter how good you look, no matter how much you have, no matter how many religious activities you perform. If faith is dead, you're already falling, and you will hit the bottom. The boy Charles, who died and came back, said it plainly. I had everything, a family, a home, the sacraments, opportunity, but I hid my sin, I performed my religion, and that was not faith, that was theater, and theater does not save. That person has everything and nothing, because without faith, the sacraments are just rituals. The prayers are just words. The cross is just jewelry. And when death comes, there is no root, no foundation, just free fall. And the landing is hell, trade skills. But most of all, he gave them faith, real faith, not performance, not culture, not fear, but actual living relationship with God through the sacraments. He taught them to confess, truly confess, not hide, not minimize, not excuse. Confess. He taught them to receive communion, worthily, with preparation, with reverence, with understanding. He taught them devotion to Mary, not superstition, not magic, but trust in her intercession. And it worked. By the time Bosco died in January 1888, there were 250 homes for boys, founded by the Salesian Society. They contained 130,000 children. Of these, over 6,000 became priests. The Salesian Society still exists today. It is the second largest religious order in the world. Why? Because Bosco understood something most people miss. You cannot save souls with programs. You cannot save souls with social services. You cannot save souls with education alone. You need faith, real faith. And real faith requires sacraments, frequent confession, frequent communion, daily mass if possible, devotion to Mary. These are not extras. These are the weapons, the tools, the only things that work. Anger, sloth, gluttony, they were massive, terrifying. The boys had weapons, swords, hammers, knives. The sword symbolized devotion to the Blessed Sacrament, especially through frequent Holy Communion, and devotion to the Blessed Virgin. The hammer symbolized confession. The knives symbolized devotions to Saint Joseph and various saints. Boys who used these weapons won. They slayed the beasts. Boys who dropped the weapons or refused to use them were devoured, torn apart, consumed. Every time. Because human strength is not enough, human morality is not enough, human goodness is not enough. You need grace, and grace comes through sacraments. That is the system. That is how it works. Trying to bypass it is suicide. What state were they in? Did they receive sacraments? And in case after case, the dreams were confirmed? Boys Bosco saw falling into hell died in mortal sin. Boys Bosco saw saved died in grace. The prophetic accuracy was documented, witnessed, investigated during his canonization process. Pope Pius XI, who knew Bosco personally, pushed the cause forward. Bosco was declared venerable in 1907, beatified in 1929, canonized on Easter Sunday, 1934. Faith is internal. Faith is the surrender of the will to God. Faith is trusting Christ more than you trust yourself. And that is rare. Very rare. Even in religious environments. That boy looks fine, sounds fine, acts fine. Until crisis comes, until death comes. And then the emptiness is revealed. Bosco saw it over and over. Boys who looked solid, who seemed faithful, who had no obvious vice, but whose faith was performance. And when they died, they fell. The boy said, I did nothing wrong. I attended Mass. I went to confession. I was moral. But I did not believe. I thought it was all just tradition, cultural habit. I had no personal faith. I never prayed from the heart. I never truly repented. I never truly loved God. I just went through the motions. And when I died, God asked me why he should save me. And I had no answer, because I had never actually said yes to him. I had only said yes to the culture. And culture does not save. Your priests cannot do it for you. You must choose. You must surrender. You must believe. And if you do not, then all the religious activity in the world will not save you. It will only make your damnation more tragic because you had everything you needed and refused it. And he did this through love, through presence, through patience, through joy, through games and music and magic tricks and stories. He captured their attention, won their trust, and then led them to the sacraments, to real confession, real communion, real devotion. And it worked, not for all of them. Many still fell, but for thousands it worked. And those thousands became priests, teachers, fathers. They spread the faith to their children, their students, their communities, and the ripple continues. Not strategies, not methods. Sacrament, Mary, Pope, the three pillars, everything else is commentary. And he knew that this is the path. This is what works. This is the only thing that works. Here is the archaeological evidence. In 1846, Bosco bought an empty lot and a dilapidated shed in an underdeveloped section of Turin called Valdocco. Next door was a saloon. Across the street, a hotel of shady reputation. But Bosco later learned in a dream that this ground was sacred. It was the burial ground of the martyrs of Turin. Excavations in the 20th century confirmed it. Human remains, dating to the early Christian period. Martyrs. Bosco had been led to holy ground without knowing it. Or maybe he did know. Maybe the dream was real. Maybe the guide showed him. Either way, the ground was confirmed. Sweating, but they came. Why? Because Bosco made faith attractive. He made faith joyful. He made faith real. He did not scold, did not threaten, did not manipulate. He loved, and love drew them. It was completed in 1868. The same year he had the vision of hell. He needed the basilica, needed a place of refuge, a fortress, because he knew the battle was intensifying. He saw it in his dreams. The attacks on faith, the attacks on the church, the seduction of materialism, of secularism, of empty religion, and he needed a stronghold. The 2 columns, the serpent and the rosary, the gifts to Mary, all documented, all illustrated. Why? Because the Salesians wanted future generations to remember, to understand. These were not legends, not myths, not allegories. These were visions, real visions. And they carried warnings, urgent warnings, about the state of souls, about the danger of empty faith, about the necessity of sacraments. In the vision, boys were drowning in a dark sea. A raft appeared. On the raft were confession and communion. Boys who climbed onto the raft were saved. Boys who refused sank. Simple, brutal, true. The fresco is there. You can see it. Valdaco, Turin. Show them that sin is ugly and virtue beautiful. This was his mission, given at 9 years old, and he fulfilled it. 72 years of labor, thousands of boys saved, an order founded, missions launched, books written, schools built, all from one dream at age 9. Explain the miracles. Explain the order that now has over 14,000 members in 134 countries. Explain the millions of young people educated. Explain the thousands of priests formed. Explain it. You cannot, unless the dream was real, unless the vision was true, unless God spoke, not from lack of education, not from bad circumstances, from lack of faith, from empty religion, from performance without conversion, from going through motions without heart. That is the danger. And the solution is sacraments, real sacraments, frequent confession, frequent communion, devotion to Mary, love of the church. Nothing else works, nothing else saves. He has material comfort but spiritual death. He has education but no wisdom. He has religion but no relationship. He has activity but no life. And when death comes, he has nothing. Because faith is the only currency that matters. Faith is the only possession that endures. Faith is the only foundation that holds. Everything else crumbles. Everything else fails. Everything else burns. In one dream, he saw a period of great confusion in the church. Attacks from outside, corruption from inside. The faithful scattered, the truth obscured, the sacraments neglected. And in the midst of it, 2 things remaining. Mary and the Eucharist. These 2. Nothing else. And those who cling to these 2 will survive, will remain, will be saved, but those who abandon them will be swept away, lost, destroyed. The confusion he saw, the attacks he prophesied, the emptiness he warned about, all here, all happening. The question is, what will you do? Will you cling to the sacraments? Will you believe, really believe? Or will you perform? Will you go through motions? Will you have everything except the one thing that matters? Because if you choose the latter, then you choose hell. And hell is real. As real as the hand that Bosco burned on the wall. As real as the boy Charles who came back from the edge. As real as the thousands of souls Bosco saw falling. I see in my dreams so many boys from good families. Boys with everything. Education, opportunity, support. And yet they are falling. Falling because they have inherited religion but not faith. They have the forms but not the substance. They believe they are saved because they are Catholic. Because they attend Mass. Because they were baptized. But they have never said yes to Christ personally. Never surrendered. Never truly believed. And when they die, they are shocked. Shocked that their religion did not save them. Because religion does not save. Faith saves. Christ saves. The sacraments save when received with faith. But without faith, it is all just ritual. Empty, dead, damning. The personal conviction that Christ is Lord and I am His. Without that, nothing else matters. I beg you, pray for them. Pray for me. That God gives me words to break through the performance, to reach the heart. Because time is short, death is close, and hell is waiting. Many ran to confession. Many changed, but not all. Some laughed it off. Some said it was just a nightmare. Some said Bosco was old and tired and confused. And those boys were the ones Bosco saw falling. Because they refused to believe. They had everything. Knowledge, opportunity, warning. And they refused. And that refusal was their choice, their damnation. You can have everything. You can have religion, culture, identity, practice, knowledge. But if you do not have faith, real personal living faith in Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior received through the sacraments of His church, then you have nothing. And nothing is what you will take to judgment. Bosco saw it, testified to it, died proclaiming it, The Salesians preserve it, the Church confirms it, and you are hearing it now. From Turin, 1849, to Rome today, the message is unchanged. Faith saves, sacraments save, Mary helps. The Eucharist is life, confession is rescue, the Church is mother, the Pope is guide. These things are not negotiable, not optional, not suggestions. They are the system, the only system that works, and refusing them is choosing death, slow death, eternal death, the kind of death that looks alive until it is too late. Charles came back from the edge. He told his story, he confessed. He chose heaven. Most do not get that chance. Most die and face judgment with no second chance. No do-over, no time to confess what they hid, no opportunity to believe what they refused, just judgment. And if the foundation is not there, the judgment is fall, eternal fall, into the furnace Bosco saw, into the darkness Charles described, into the separation that is hell. The archives at Valdaco hold the original dream journals. 40 dreams published, hundreds more unpublished, all dated, all detailed, all with outcomes. And the pattern is consistent. Boys who frequented sacraments were saved. Boys who neglected sacraments fell. Boys who confessed truly were rescued. Boys who hid sins were lost. Boys who loved Mary were protected. Boys who ignored her were devoured. Boys who believed lived. Boys who performed died, every single time. No middle ground, no safe neutrality. You are either fighting with the weapons or you are losing without them. No matter how good they look, no matter how religious they sound. Without faith, it is all nothing, and nothing is what waits at the bottom.